Good afternoon. Thank you all for hanging in there with us this afternoon. I'm Michelle Ricardo, and we'll be talking a little bit about, as Ben mentioned, Ada and Spark Education and Community Resources. I'm an account manager at AdaCore, based in the New York office, and I also serve as the training coordinator for North America. So we'll talk a little bit about training later. If there are any questions about it, feel free to follow up with me or any of the AdaCore team that's here. As we sort of get started thinking about education and community resources, I thought maybe I would take a quick poll of the audience. How many of you work on teams where you have a developer that has less than 2 years of experience with Ada or Spark? Okay, that is quite a few. So if you're asking yourself, why does AdaCore provide education and community resources? That's one of the reasons. We know that for our customers, very often you're getting new engineers, new developers each and every year almost, it seems for some of you, and their experience with Ada and Spark may be limited. We sincerely feel like it's core to our mission as a company to, as it says, help developers build software that matters. It's core to our value, and that's really why we provide it. We know it's something that you need, and we're trying to respond to those needs, and it's also core to what we think is important for us to provide. So who are these resources for, you may be asking yourself. The resources that we provide are for students, for industry, I know most of you are from industry, and also for hobbyists. So we have a lot of folks who are tinkering around on projects that are just sort of fun applications that they work on their own time, or that have maybe some future potential commercial viability, but for now they're just looking for sandbox and area to play. We support all of these folks. So really, it's anyone that has an interest in learning more about the Ada and Spark languages. These resources are intended for them. So we'll talk a little bit about sort of some of the resources that are generally applicable for everyone. Some of these may be resources you're familiar with. The first is learn.adacore.com, and the second are just the AdaCore general resources available from our .com. So starting with learn.adacore.com, this is our interactive learning platform, which was launched just last year in 2018. One of the great things about the site is it features not just interactive courses where you can actually run some sample code and learn about the languages, but it also features some labs. Since we launched last year, we have on average about 7,000 sessions each month. So it really has caught on as a place for folks to go and learn about Ada and Spark. One of the things that I think is great about it is we don't ask for any information. I don't even think we ask for a password. You can just hop right onto the website and start playing along with these courses, self-paced. You can just go through the modules step by step. It's a great resource for some of your newer engineers. You could refer them here and ask them to work through the courses. We have a few customers that actually use this as part of their integration for junior engineers. So some of the courses that we've had since the launch are Introduction to Ada and Introduction to Spark, pretty natural idea. Those were there when we launched the platform, and we actually added 3 new courses this year. One is Ada for the C++ Java developer, really inspired by the booklet, which I think we have copies in the back, which was authored by our very own Quentin O'Shem. And similar to that, we have a course on MISRC and how that compares to Spark. So it's one of the questions that we were getting a lot. We do have a booklet also that Unique authored, and this course is inspired from that booklet. And then lastly, really, this is more about the AdaCore tools, a course that goes more into the actually Gannett tool chain. So we get a lot of questions about how to use the various tools, and so now we have launched a course based on that as well. So it's growing. So what's coming next? We're moving from the introductory courses into more advanced learning courses for both Ada and Spark. And then we're also working on a course for embedded development. So you should see these hopefully next year. We'll launch 3 additional courses. If anyone has any thoughts on courses that they would like to see, I always invite people to let us know. You can reach out to me or to any of us. We're always curious to know what kind of courses you would like to see. And it's something that we'll definitely take into consideration as we continue building out the resources from the site. The other thing that we have introduced are some labs. So I know a lot of engineers like to learn by doing. That's really where they actually get sort of their best learning. We do have some labs available on the site. One is an introduction to Ada, and another one is a major league hacking lab, which we use with that organization. And we've loaded those on here as well. I wanted to see if, let's see if I can launch it. Thanks, Albert. So just thought I would show you a little bit of the lab itself and how it works. It's just exactly what you might imagine. It gives you an opportunity to actually tinker around with the actual examples. You could type in here, which I will spare you. But it's a great example of how to actually review the various nodes of the labs and actually run and submit bits of code as you're learning. I hear this all the time from developers. I was just talking to one yesterday who said, this is how I really learn. It's by actually hands-on working with the tools. So it's a safe place for people to learn where they're not mucking around in your applications at work. All right, awesome. Okay, so next up, I would talk a little bit about the general resources on the website. There are several. I won't go through all of them, but if you go to adacore.com/resources, you may have noticed on the resources tab, there are a lot of different resources available for you to download or view from the website, which are, again, all available at no cost. I won't go through all of these in detail, but books, we have several in the back. Webinars, we have often host webinars, and you can find those on the site. The Ada Gems, I'll go into these three in a little bit more detail, but then we also have our AdaCore blog, technical papers, development logs, as well as documentation. You can find all of that stuff on the website. I know many of you go through Gannett Tracker. There's also a lot of the same information can be found there as well. But just to go a little bit deeper into the first three, the books tends to be our #1 resource that people like. We brought many of them today. We encourage you guys to take paper copies home. But for those of you who are thinking about going greener, or you would like to share these with your jealous colleagues when you get back to the office in an easy way, you could let us know. We're happy to ship things for you. But you can also download many of the books that we self-publish. This is actually sort of a section of the Barnes book that Ben worked on, our very own Ben. This is the Ada for the C++ Java developer book, cybersecurity book. All of these titles, Spark, as well as we talked a little bit about certification. All these booklets are available for download from the website at no charge. You can review them. Sometimes it's nice. They're searchable PDFs. Next, just go a little bit deeper into the webinars. I won't go through all of them. We archive a lot of the webinars, but I thought it would be worth showing a couple of the more current ones. Our very own Rob Tice recently hosted a couple of webinars this fall, one specifically on the Gannett Pro Tool Suite. If you have colleagues who are trying to learn a little bit about it, maybe they want to get an introduction. It's about an hour-long or so webinar. You could learn about the features of the Gannett Pro Tool Suite. There's one on CodePeer. These are both done just this fall. Another one, which might be of interest, a lot of people are talking and thinking about GPUs. We do have a webinar which Quentin hosted specifically about GPUs. It's available. And then one thing that Rob had mentioned earlier was the VDC research study that talks about the cost savings of programming in Ada. There is a corresponding webinar that talks about the results and the methodology of the study. So the study is also available, but if you'd like to review sort of a video of folks talking about the results, this is another thing that you can share with your management colleagues or anyone who's interested in learning more about the cost benefits of using Ada. And coming soon, yet another NVIDIA experience, an opportunity for folks who are interested in learning a little bit more about sort of this story of the adoption of Ada. We do have an upcoming joint webinar coming up. And I'll just see if I can, oops. See if this works for me. Yay. So you can go online to register for this event. And I just thought it would be fun to review some of the presenters, because you may see a familiar face, your friends and ours. And you can see a little bit about their bios and what they're talking about. And there's also the opportunity to register straight from the website. And it probably, like many of our webinars, may be recorded, so it's possible that people, if you're unavailable on this particular day, you can find it later on. So that's just a little bit of a recap. I didn't go through all of the resources, or all of the webinars. There's a lot of webinars, but I just wanted to highlight just a few and sort of what's coming next. And I really encourage folks, to take a look every now and again to see if there are any newer webinars. A lot of trending topics. We do host live webinars and then archive them on the site. So next, I wanted to go from sort of the most modern, which is sort of the webinars or these timely topics, to what I think is an oldie but a goodie. Does anybody remember the gems, the AdaCore gems? Anybody remember them? I see a few hands, okay. The idea behind the gems was really to give short how-tos. If you have specific questions or the specific tools, features of either the language or the AdaCore tool suite, a lot of times they're addressed in these small little snapshot gems. I just still love them. I know it's a little retro of me, but I just wanted to show you guys sort of how it works. And if you go to the AdaCore gems site, adacore.com/gems, the very top one is sort of our introduction to our blog, which is our current format. We have an AdaCore blog. I encourage folks to read it. But just to give you a little bit of a sense of what the gems look like, they're all numbered, and they have specific topics. So, I don't know, does anybody have a favorite gem? GDB scripting. It's fascinating. It's a good one. I see like a few head nods. But there's a lot of really great information here, which is still applicable, and especially features of the language, certain features of the tool sets that haven't changed. You can always rely on technical support, right? Opening tickets, always. We're always there to support you. But this is a great way to sometimes get a broader picture of how things work. So I think it's still a great resource, and I just want to kind of remind people, it's an oldie but a goodie, the AdaCore gems. Okay, so that was sort of a little overview on resources, learning resources for everyone, whether it's the interactive learning website, learn.adacore.com, or the AdaCore resources, which are available from the website. This is really anyone who wants to learn about Ada or Spark can utilize those resources that we just covered. And next, I thought I would talk a little bit about learning resources for students. As you all are growing your teams, I thought it might be something to think about. What do we do in sort of the academic environment? We have two sort of main resources that are geared specifically for students. I'm not sure, do we have any students here today? Anybody still in school, graduate school? Okay, so just something to be aware of. This is what we offer. And I will mention, for anyone that's in the hiring phase, if you do need help, one thing to think about is these can be some resources to think about feeder schools. So the first one is our sort of what we do in academia, which is our academic program. We at AdaCore sponsor the GNAT academic program. And basically it's specific education resources and tools provided in the university setting. So this would be undergrad as well as graduate school. So we have over 130 universities that participate in the program. So as you're looking to hire new engineers, these could be potential institutions to look at, something to think about as places to go looking for fresh talent. There's a lot of members or various different countries. You can go online and take a look a little bit further. It will have the whole list of schools country by country. And then the next is Make with Ada. Have any of you heard of this programming competition? A couple of you have heard of it. It's a great, it's a great competition. Definitely, I love competition, right? It feeds the soul. But we do have prizes specifically for students, so it's something to think about if you know anybody who's in school or you have any interns, to encourage them to participate. We do have specific prizes, especially for them. So it's an embedded software project competition, so it's just something to think about. So what we're doing with students, those are the two basic student programs. If you have questions, want to learn more about it, specifically on these two, Jessie Glockner, who's here, she's also a great point person for learning more about what we're doing in the university setting. Next, I thought we would jump over to community because it kind of really dovetails nicely. A lot of students use the community resources. We have materials that you can download as well as just general social materials. So we'll go through fairly quickly. If you go to adacore.com/download, just to show you a couple of the community versions of the tools which are available for download, sort of what's new from 2019. We've launched 64-bit natives for Windows, Linux, and Mac, as well as the RISC-V, which everyone's been talking about all day, hosted on Linux, and then also ARM 32 bits. These are all newly added just this last year in 2019. So for those folks that are, if you're interested in taking maybe a closer look at RISC-V or any of these other platforms, it's something that you can tinker around with. If you're working on applications, please feel free to take a look at these. And then as I think about community, one thing to think about is sort of just being social and staying connected. I know all of you have joined us today for what is, yet another kind of learning and community type of event, but we do have a lot of social channels. I know a couple of folks mentioned GitHub throughout the day, so we do definitely have, AdaCore materials on GitHub, as was mentioned, but Stack Overflow, as well as Twitter, great places to check out, as well as Reddit, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So we are, social for those of you who are interested in connecting with other members of the community. Many of our engineers participate in these platforms as well and are members of the various communities. Great place to ask questions and, sort of learn more from one another and see, the community is growing and what folks are adding. So those are sort of general community resources. The download, and then the community page actually has a list of all of the social settings that will link you out to them if you want to get direct links to the platforms. And then lastly, I thought I would just recap on some of the resources that are specifically for industry. So unlike everything else that we talked about before, these are things that are really do have some additional costs associated with them, which is why they're really primarily for industry in terms of learning resources. Mentorship was mentioned. I'll start maybe with that just as an idea. We'll go through it a little bit more, but mentorship, as it was mentioned, is sort of a combination of bespoke solution. We'll talk about training and consulting. Actually, we'll take training first. So training is exactly what you think it is, classroom-oriented type of training. I'm not sure, some of you may have had training before. Our own Ben has been a trainer for many years, as well as some other folks who perhaps you've had classes with here in the room. We offer language training as well as tools training, classroom-style training from one of our experts. We have probably our most popular language classes are the Ada Fundamentals and then the Spark course. And then on the tools side, CodePeer has become very trendy. People want to learn more about it. If you want to have a classroom training on that, please let us know, and we'll deploy a trainer off to your site. And consulting is a little more, I would say, if you have a customized goal, something specifically that you're trying to accomplish and you need a little more hand-holding, high priority project, or perhaps something unusual you haven't faced before and you would like us to work a little more closely with you, we'll pair you with an expert that's really focused on whatever it is your specific technical goal is. And then mentorship is sort of a bundle of these kinds of services. So I think about mentorship as a great solution for people that are adopting AdaCore technology that's new. So we talked about the adoption of Spark. People want to actually take maybe a C program or create a prototype application in Spark and maybe need a little bit more close, some say hand-holding support to get them through that ultimate goal. It could be also integrating CodePeer into your workflow. Maybe you're trying to get a handle on that. You would, as a part of the mentorship, have a dedicated AdaCore staffer that helps to kind of prescribe all the services that you would need to help to get you to your ultimate, technical goal in adopting the technology. That AdaCore mentor will help to prescribe things like training, as well as consulting meetings, virtual conferences, and actually work on some of your code. So this is a little unusual, but sometimes people, they would like to see a proof done, or they want to actually have somebody work with them with CodePeer. If you need actual coding assistance, that can be part of the mentorship. And then lastly, if there are any tools that you want to try, platforms you want to experiment with, that is also something that can be provided as a part of the mentorship. So it really is a bundle of services that are intended to address your specific technology adoption goals. And so those are basically sort of the top 3 resources for industry are the training, the consulting, and the mentorship. So that is pretty much all of the resources that I thought I would go through. And then I was actually thinking a little bit about the presentation as I was watching everyone present during the day, and I thought, really, Tech Days is sort of the ultimate in education and community resource, bringing together all of our engineers and all these resources. So I just want to say, thank you guys for participating today in what is arguably the ultimate of education and community resources. And I was just curious, I started with a poll. I thought I would end with a poll. How many of you guys here in the room have more than, let's say, 5 years of experience with Spark and Ada? More than 5? More than 10? I'm almost afraid. More than 15? Still a few, so I won't go any higher because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But I think it's incredible that with all of these years of experience, so many of you have chosen to spend 2 days with us and continue learning. And so I just would like to really thank you guys for that. And if you have any questions about learning or community resources, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay, thanks.